So we bring greetings, John and I, from the preachers of the diocese. We had the pleasure of attending Preachers Practicum last weekend, and as all of you who have attended know, it was a great experience. This one, truly remarkable, truly remarkable. We had various themes and did our practicing, and I think we all left much richer for the experience. So, to today's lessons. I've been talking through this season of Epiphany about action. And so Jesus preached the Sermon on the Boat. We don't know a thing about it because what his real sermon was go fish. And so he went out and they fished, and success. And that brought the disciples to follow him. At least that was one of the things maybe that helped them turn their back on their life and follow the life of Jesus. But today, as we did last week, we're back to preaching. Jesus is doing the Sermon on the Plain. There are similarities with this, the Sermon on the Mount, and he is telling us things. As we studied this on Wednesday, we came up with the idea that the genre of this was like Proverbs. Proverbs. The measure you give is the measure you'll get back. And so, all the way through these life lessons of how we should behave. Now, the Bible has a whole book of Proverbs, so it is an ancient genre. And so if we want to get technical and do some grammar here, there are two-part forms. There is the proverb that has the same and the same, just sort of repeated like verses in the Psalms. There's the proverb that starts out with one thing and then ends up with the opposite thing. And then there's the proverb that sets out an idea and then develops the idea. And there's the proverb that compares. This is like this. So, examples taken from the book of Proverbs. An evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar gives heed to a mischievous tongue. Evildoer and a liar. They do kind of same things. How about this one? The wise are cautious and turn away from evil, but the fool throws off restraint and is careless. We got the wise on the one hand, the fool on the other. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. So the eyes are there and we develop it. What is the eye of the Lord watching? And a comparison, like cold water to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country. Now, there's lots of proverbs. Singing to a person who's depressed is like taking off a person's clothes on a cold day. Okay, we get down with our proverbs. Here's one for Jane. Good people take care of their animals, but wicked people are cruel to theirs. Here's one for us who went to preaching practicum. The more you talk, the more likely you are to sin. It goes on. If you're wise, you'll keep quiet. I could end there, but
you're not that wise.
That's just one of those old proverbs. So we come up to Jesus' lessons today, and these are almost anti-proverbs. I mean, love your enemies. Give away everything you got. If somebody asks and begs, why, you just give. Oh my goodness, what do we do with such advice? Now, we can talk about loving your enemy, and we know that in our past history we demonize the enemy. And so the people from Germany and Japan were demonized in World War I and then World War II, and now they're our best friends. My era, the people in Vietnam were given bad names, but now we just love to go visit Vietnam and shake hands and be friends. And even today, we demonize those people as drug dealers and rapists and killers, whether they're Arab or Mexican. because we just want to be separated from them. We can hope in the next era we can be best friends. So, behind all that, maybe we have to demonize in order to do what needs to be done. And then when we're through the crisis, we can remember to love our enemies. Maybe that's what Jesus is saying. Kind of like revival time. We need every so often to just get stirred up. But I tell you, the impossibilities of these Jesus proverbs. I mean, if you get hit or abused, you're just supposed to take it? Are we just supposed to fall down and let the world walk over us? And what kind of economy would we have if we just gave everything away? And we just lent and didn't expect it to be returned? That would be the downfall of civilization, I'll tell you that. So, what to do? What to do with these proverbs from Jesus? And one way is to talk about, well, that Mideastern love of exaggeration. And these were originally in Aramaic. And so, maybe it was something like Jesus said, if someone tells you to go jump in the lake, well, you just go get wet. So, maybe it's like, go jump in the lake, what he's saying. Okay. Maybe these goals are set so high to encourage us. We're not going to expect to get to the top of Mount Everest. We'll go to visit Nepal and have a nice time in Kathmandu. Maybe it will get us part of the way up, further than we ever would have gone had we not had such a high goal. Maybe. And then we have the part about even the sinners do that much. So if you lend expecting to return, if you're good to somebody expecting they'll be good back to you, well, even sinners do that. And of course, here's the deal. Who are we comparing ourselves to? Are we comparing ourselves to those sinners? Or is Jesus asking us to compare ourselves to God, to Jesus, to the best that we can be? Of course, I'm always comparing myself to others and hoping for the best. Now, we have some good advice, and if we went through the psalm again, don't fret, don't get worried, don't carry these things with you. That's good practical advice. If somebody has borrowed something from you and hasn't paid it back, and you are just in a fit for days and weeks and months, well, who is bearing the brunt of that? The person that you lent whatever it was to has forgotten about it, or they might have returned it. You're the one that is bearing the brunt of that difficulty. Don't fret yourself. Don't fret yourself. And then we might think about these examples in Jesus' lesson are relational sins. I mean, why are you getting hit on the cheek? Why did somebody come up to you and do that? Did you think about where they're coming from? Why does somebody need your coat? Did you think about that? You got how many coats back in the closet at home? We live in an era where we're pretty well off compared to the world. And so we might think, why is it that others in the world look at us, perhaps with jealousy or envy, or want what we have? The final advice is the deep one. Mercy. Those of you in the prison, you get a dose of handing out mercy. You get to practice mercy. Here are people who've made serious mistakes. And you still work with them, develop them, and reap the benefits. If you give mercy, you're going to get it back. Right, Charlie?
I hope so.
Oh, you got mercy. It isn't just heavenly mercy. It's the right now, here, and the relationship that we have with each other. Last night we had the gala for Love Inc. And so again, here is inaction in our own community, not just giving out good things, which Love Inc. does, but Love Inc. involves all the churches. But in addition to what it does that helps people, it has a relationship with them. It makes them come in, and maybe they don't want to, but it says, sit down, let's talk to you. What's going on here? What do you really, really, really need? Why is it you need from our food bank? Why is it you need furniture? Why is it you need things? What can you give? What is it that is going to make your life abundant? And so it isn't just take this and please, I don't want to see you again. It's who are you? What relationship can we establish? And so again, this is Jesus' call. Relationship to each other, relationship to God in heaven. It isn't just a matter of, well, we want to be as good as we can, of course, but our most important lessons, the most important proverbs all the time are how to be in good relationship with the world around us, with God's creation. Which, of course, brings us to the great relationship story we heard at the start, Joseph. Now, I hope everybody's up on Joseph. It's the longest novelette in the Bible, and it has ups and downs. Joseph ends up, what we hear today is, well, he's working for Pharaoh. He's in charge of everything. He's so forgiving. He's a great guy, but you need to go back to the start of the story. Not so good. Family dynamics, we like to call that today. Family dynamics. Joseph was the youngest one at the time. The youngest one gets everything, doesn't she? Yeah. The youngest one gets that beautiful coat. The youngest one gets the regard of the father. So, what are the others to think? Not fair, and it's not. And then Joseph, if you remember, he compounds it saying, well, I had a dream. Guess what? Y'all bowed down to me. So, no wonder he was at the bottom of that well. That's a lesson. Never mind. At any rate, we like to take the lesson that, of course, God's mercy and God's plan was, and of course this is true enough, that things would turn out well. And part of the charge, one of the proverbs that Jesus might say is, take evil and turn it into good. Don't return evil for evil. Take evil and transform it. And so we like to take that lesson from the Joseph story. But even so, just before this part of the story, Joseph plays several tricks on his brothers. And even though one brother substitutes for the other and shows that his concern is for others more than for himself, and that there's this merciful lesson within the family now, I've got to think that there's still a lot of splaining to do after they discover it's Joseph and they realize that he is in charge, but why did you put us through that ringer? Well, obviously they threw him in the well, so they deserved it. But, again, it's a relationship, and relationships are not easy. Maybe that's why we're asked to take a look at the heights and do the best that we can. Because we're never going to be perfect. We have to remember that this deep plan of the universe, that God creates it good, and that our job is to take those parts of creation and turn them back to the good that God sees in that part of creation. Proverb of the day. Mercy. Enough said. Amen.
Amen.